All right, perfect. Recording. Welcome everybody this morning or afternoon to the sixth in the series of Robert Murray's Dynamic Leadership webinars. This one is called Delivering the Fourth Economic Offering. My name is Tiana. I work with Bob, and I will be helping to facilitate all of the questions and comments throughout the webinar this morning or afternoon. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce Bob to those of you online that don't already know him. He's currently a partner at Incrementive Consulting, which is a Vancouver-based business consulting company, a global speaker, a business strategist, and I am very proud to say that he is a #1 best-selling author. So this just happened last month when we launched the second edition of his first book, It's Already Inside. And if you're looking for more information on that, you can go to www.itsalreadyinside.com. His expertise and experience are in the realm of leadership, simple business strategy, culture, and engagement, which you will all hear about today. As Bob goes through the webinar this morning, again, or afternoon, I'm sure that you'll all have lots of questions and comments about what he's saying. So I invite you to post all of them in either the chat box or the question box, and I'll be monitoring everything coming throughout the webinar. And if a question relates specifically to a slide that we're on, I'll pose the question to him then. If not, I'll hold all of the questions until the end. Please feel free to engage as much as you'd like throughout the webinar, as everything will be anonymous, and it's how you'll be able to get the most out of it. All right, so enjoy, and Bob, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Tiana. And as Tiana said, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on what part of the world that you are dialing in and joining us from today, being February the 3rd. This is our second webinar Wednesday for 2016. And as Tiana mentioned earlier, I wanted to thank everybody who participated in helping take It's Already Inside to Amazon #1 bestseller. We did it, and we could not have done it without the huge support that we received from people all over the world. And I'm very, very appreciative of that. Today I'm super excited about this because this is something that is just emerging, and it's something that people have been talking about for a while, but they haven't really been they haven't put their finger on what it is exactly. And I'm calling it the fourth economic offering. So today, the webinar, which is going to take us about 40 minutes to get through, is all about the fourth economic webinar or offering. And I'm going to talk about what it is. I'm going to talk about what it is that you do that's memorable to your customers that ties in with this fourth economic offering. And then finally, I'm going to talk about how do we inspire our team to all step up and contribute to contributing this memorable experience for your customers. So if you guys are ready, let's get started. We are recording this, so you will be able to refer to it later if you want to. So what is the fourth economic offering? Well, the first one, let's go through the first three first. The first economic offering is a commodity. It's a basic good that's used. And typically we would think about livestock or agriculture, minerals. They're typically what we would refer to as commodities. It's essentially uniform across all producers. And that would be the first one. The second economic offering is a product. A product is anything that can be offered to a market that might satisfy a want or a need that a customer has. In retail, products are called merchandise, and in manufacturing, products are usually sold as raw materials or as finished goods. The third economic offering is what we refer to as a service. And services are one of those two key components of economics other than being goods. Examples of services include transfers of goods, such as the mail service or the postal service, going to the doctor, having your car fixed, going to a hotel or a restaurant. Telecommunications is quite often referred to as a service. Now, up until more recently, those were the economic offerings. You could either be selling a commodity, selling a product, or selling a service. And that was pretty much it. However, there's a problem with that. There's a problem with the first three. In the crazy world that we're competing in, what I am seeing is evidence from virtually every product and service-based industries that they're lowering their offering to that of a commodity level. Why? Well, because the competition that we're seeing from all over the planet that is really impacting virtually every product and service offering in every part of the world, people are starting to compete on price. And they've been doing it for quite a while, but now it's getting really, really aggressive. If you want constant pressure on your cost, if you want high employee churn, if you want low customer loyalty and skinny profits, this is where you want to compete. You want to be competing in the commodity, product, or service offering. I want to talk to you about the fourth economic offering, though, and that is one that Disney is specialized in. And Disney actually was the one who started to really, really focus in on the fourth economic offering. And the fourth economic offering really is about an experience. Now, Disney refers to it as one where they don't sell a product, even though when you go to Disney, you can buy some Disney products. And they don't sell a service, even though a lot of people think that that's the industry that they're in. Disney thinks that they are in the experience industry. And the way I look at it is an experience is what's happening to us all the time. As long as we exist on the planet, we as human beings are experiencing things. And experience is used in the present tense. It refers to the subjective nature of one's current existence. An experience can be negative, an experience can also be positive. And if you think about every single memorable consumer interaction that you have had, both negative and positive, it's usually because of some type of an experience that you're remembering. An experience offering is really where disruption happens. And this is where we as business people and as leaders are going to make a huge difference. And we'll be able to move our product or service offering away from the commodity end of and towards the experience end of the scale. I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. Why is the fourth economic offering so important? Well, first and foremost, as human beings, we make all of our decisions based upon emotions. As it says here, despite saying that we don't. We as human beings are emotional beings, and we make all of our decisions. I love to ask people the question, if you happen to have a partner or boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, I always ask the question, why did you choose the person that you chose? And very rarely, except on one instance where I had an accountant give me a spreadsheet with 20 different points on it as to why they chose the partner that they're currently with, but very rarely can we ever put our finger on a logical reason as to why we chose the person that we chose. It was a feeling. It just felt right. Scientists will blame it on pheromones. However, it is an emotionally based decision. Emotional decisions are incredibly powerful, as I mentioned before, both positive and negative, and they're very, very memorable. So building an emotional experience into your service or product offering will form a lasting lifetime connection with your customer. Now let's explore emotions-based decisions a little bit more. Think about major purchases that you make. Very rarely are they ever logical. Logic always comes after the decision to make a purchase. Most often, it's emotion that comes into play first and foremost. It can be found when we decide to buy a new suit, for example. It's not that we need a new suit. Maybe we do. However, when we choose the suit that we have decided to buy, it's because that jacket and or trousers, pants that we were wearing, we looked in the mirror, it made you feel a certain way. It's afterwards then that logic comes into play. The same thing can be said for when we purchase a car. The same thing that can be said for when we purchase a house. There's an emotional connection to that particular product and sometimes service that is backed up with logic after the emotional decision is made. Also, think about sometimes when you've gone on a trip and you've traveled to another country and you've experienced something completely different. It's that experience that you remember. So as business leaders, our job then, in order for us to compete and thrive in this crazy world that we're in now, we have to take all of the things that we currently believe as products or service and convert that to an experience. Let's explore it a little bit more. What is it that you do that's memorable to your customers? I've showed some of you who have attended my webinars in the past, I've showed you this, which is what I call this strategic compass. The strategic compass comes from a point in time when, about 30 years ago, I was learning how to fly an airplane. And when I was learning to fly, I was flying in a very, very basic airplane. It was a Cessna 150. It had an engine, it had a radio, and it had a compass. None of the sophisticated navigation equipment that we have today. One of the things that I had to learn after I became a solo student pilot was that I had to learn how to do cross-country flying. And I would take off from the airport that I was training in, and I would have to fly to another destination about 150 kilometers away. Before I left the ground, I would have to make a very complicated calculation based upon the wind, based upon current wind weather conditions, and based upon a couple of other factors. And I would come up with a very, very specific compass heading that I had to steer. If I was 1 or 2 degrees off on that compass heading, what would happen is I would never arrive at the airport that I had to get to. I would end up sometimes as far as 50 miles away, east or west. So I learned the power of a compass, and I learned the power of focusing on a single point. As I got into business and leadership and studying other organizations that have been very successful, I discovered that one of the things that made them successful was that they too were using a compass. And they were using a compass that didn't have north, east, south, and west on it, but they were using a compass that had very, very specific, distinctive excellence that created an experience for their customers. And so I replaced north, east, south, and west with customer experience, operational efficiency, operational quality, and innovation of the product or service. And then I've discovered more and more as I travel the world and study other companies that are hugely successful and ones that we look to as benchmark or great, they're organizations that do not try to be all things to all people. They focus very, very specifically on either an experience for that customer, being incredibly efficient, having a product or a service that has the highest level of quality, or they're incredibly innovative. Then they use the other points on the compass to leverage that point. I'll give you an example. Let's take Apple, because it's a familiar one that everyone knows. Apple is clearly innovative. Everything that they do is to be disruptive and to think differently, offer us products and services that are different, designed different, they function different. And as a result of that, they have become, well, now the number 2 company in the world, and they lost their number 1 position the other day to Google. But by market value, they're the number 2 company in the world because they have focused intensely on innovation. The experience for the customer that they deliver is all around the innovation of the product and everything that you can do with the product. Are they efficient? Yes, they're good at that, but that's not their focus. Are their products superior quality? They have very good quality, but that's not their focus. They use the customer experience, their efficiency as an organization, and the quality of their products to push the innovation part of their business and create an experience for the customer that is emotionally charged. And all you have to do is ask anybody who has an Apple product or multiple Apple products why they chose the product that they did. Quite often what you will get is a very, very convoluted reason as to why they chose that particular product. And at the end of the day, if we could get them to be really truthful, it was because of a feeling or an emotion that owning an Apple product has delivered for them or made them feel. You can say the same for all the other points on the compass as well. Customer experience is one that I like to focus on as well, because it can be delivered to a customer via a product or a service, but everything around it is designed as an experience. You only have to look to the tourism industry, and I mentioned Disney before, and Disney is one of the benchmarks for sure. But there's a number of others as well that have taken what could be a commodity and turned it into an experience for their customers. Airlines like Virgin Atlantic, well known for the experience that they deliver. But they have a business class cabin that is called upper class, and that is the experience that they're focusing on. But people don't talk necessarily about upper class or business class with Virgin Airlines. They talk about the entire experience. When every other airline in the world has got a business class cabin, every other airline in the world will talk to you about the logical things that they have, the features that they have in their business class cabin. Very rarely, though, do they connect that to an experience. So one of the things I urge you in how do you create this fourth economic offering for your customers is to really focus on something like the strategic compass. You pick a point on that compass and you become that. You become that one point, and you use the other 3 points as a tailwind or a supporting cause for the experience that you want to create for your customer. Let's dive deeper into this. What is your memorable experience? Well, here's the problem that I see. And it's actually not a problem for me because as a consultant, I get hired to go in and fix organizations or to build a strategy for organizations that are trying to be all things to all people. One day it's about the customer, the next day it's about engaging the hearts and minds of their team members, and the next day it's about controlling cost. What I say is pick one and be that one thing. It's this trying to be all things to all people that makes most organizations what I call schizophrenic, is that they keep changing their offering. And when every day they keep changing their offering or they keep changing their strategic focus, then they become schizophrenic. Then their product or service is lowered to a commodity. And you could never have what we call that fourth economic offering, which is about creating that emotional experience. Pick one and be that one thing. So how do we do that? Well, it involves a team and getting our entire team to step up and contribute to creating that memorable experience for our customers. Here's my recipe for how we do that. It starts with the team that you hire. Every single person that you hire needs to fit into the experience that you want to deliver. So from now on, every single time that you're looking at recruiting, assessing, hiring, and onboarding a new team member, it's paramount that you look at them and figure out how will they fit in to the experience that we want to deliver for our customers. And the secret is during the recruiting and assessing phase, looking for ways that you can test to see if they align with your culture, if they align with your philosophy, and if they align with the experience that you want to deliver with customers. Now, this is going to have to take you, or you're going to have to go beyond the traditional interview, and you're going to have to stretch and pull your new recruits so that you can test to see, are they a fit for your team? The second one is the team that you keep. If the current team is not up to the challenge, you may be wasting your time trying to create this experience that you are trying to craft. Be really, really careful with the team that you keep. If they're rock stars, great. I like to say that, I'm always looking for A players. And A players are people who fit the culture and become functional members of the team. They aren't necessarily the rocket scientists that you might want to have. They might not necessarily have the master's degree or even a PhD degree. They might not necessarily have a Mensa or Genius IQ, but they fit your culture. They align with the direction that you're going, and they're one of those teammates that customers absolutely love. So every aspect of your business needs to ooze your memorable experience, whatever that happens to be. But it has to be like a symphony orchestra. It all has to come together. Continuing on, one of the things that I love to do is what I call a customer journey map. Some call it moments of truth, but really a customer journey map is a visual of some form of every single customer touch point that you have. So a customer touch point is when a customer comes to your website, that's a touch point. If they see your business card, that's another touch point. If they hear about you from someone else, another touch point. On it goes, all the way through to a customer becoming a customer and then experiencing your product or service, all the way through to the invoice that they receive, and then the post service that they receive from your organization should there be something wrong with the product or service. These are all touch points. And every single one of these touch points needs to be scripted. It needs to have a process built for it. It needs to have a way for it to be executed, and it needs to have a way for it to be measured. Now, it might sound complicated. However, there is an easy way to do it, and I like to do it in a visual. And here's an example of a visual. This is a customer experience journey, and it starts with, up on the top rightish there where it says need generation, where a particular customer will search the internet, and then they go through the process of their initial consideration. They're engaging with you and your organization, evaluating you and your organization, and then there's that moment of purchase. Then there's the delivery or the installation, and then there's the actual usage of your product. All the different touch points in there, and if you take in one individual one, for example, engagement. What are the different touch points during the engagement phase? And then how do you give yourself, as an organization, how do you give yourself a report card for that? And I like to keep it simple. And this visual here just uses happy faces, frustrated faces, or sad faces, or even neutral faces. But it could be something like a stoplight, red, yellow, or green, that you give yourself as a rating. But it's really important to identify all those customer touch points and then give yourself a rating for it and then come up with a plan for how you're going to change it. I love using visuals because it keeps it simple. It keeps it really, really simple for us. And then it also is a great way to involve the whole team. So the whole team can get in front of a big whiteboard or multiple sheets of flip chart paper and come up with all the different touch points, categorize them into some type of a visual, and then give yourself a report card on that. After the report card is done, build a process, build a script for how you're going to deliver a consistent experience. And that is the key to the fourth economic offering, is being able to deliver it consistently every single time. Once you're able to get to that level of consistency where it's the same every single time, then you start to deliver an experience for customers. Then customers start to become your best advertisement. They become what I call apostles. And they'll tell everybody that they know. I find it fascinating if I come back to the example of Disney. And this happened to me yesterday when I was talking to somebody and we were talking about the Disney experience. And this person was super excited and was telling me about what a great experience it was. And then I said to this person, I said, which Disney resort did you go to? And he said, oh, I've never been to a Disney resort. I just love the experience. He's never been to a Disney resort. He's never actually experienced the Disney experience, but he knew all about it and he was talking about it just like he had actually experienced it. That's magic. And that's where the fourth economic offering will bring you that magic into your organization. The final slide that I have is what I call closing questions to ask yourself. So if you're sitting around a table right now by yourself, ask yourself these questions. Or if you're sitting around the table right now with a team of people, which I know some of you are, ask yourselves these questions. First one, what can you not sell today because of your culture or your economic offering? What is preventing you from closing deals because of the culture you have in your organization? So in other words, if you are a salesperson and you're trying to close a big deal or close a deal with a prospect, and the prospect is giving you objections, Is it because of something that's going on in the culture that's not supporting what it is that you are promising? Or is it because of your economic offering? Is it because your economic offering is a commodity and you have not created that fourth economic offering or that emotional experience that the customer can buy into? Question number two is, what do you need to change to get the results you need to generate in the next few years? So in other words, if you've got goals, if you are the business leader for the organization or your team, and you've got goals that you need to hit over the next 1, 2, or 3 years, what do you need to change about your economic offering or your culture in order to do that? And that's a really, really powerful question to consider. What is it that you need to change? And you need to get going on that, because as Einstein said, continuing to do the same things over and over again but expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Question number three is, what dangers do you need to avoid? Changing to a emotional experience or the fourth economic offering could cause problems inside your organization with your current culture. Could it cause problems with your current customer base who are currently looking at you as a commodity? And how are you going to change that? How are you going to change those perceptions of those customers so that it's more of an experience for them, so that there's more of a loyalty factor and they stop grinding you on price and they just accept the fact that that's the cost of doing business with an extraordinary organization? Number four is, what strengths do you have that contribute to you being able to develop an emotional experience or fourth economic offering? And then number five is, how do you leverage all of this? How do you leverage the dangers that you need to avoid? How do you leverage the strengths that you have? How do you leverage the culture and your economic offering that you have today in order to get to that fourth economic offering? Well, that takes me to the end of the material that I had for you today. This is recorded, as we said. We're going to open it up to questions. And Tiana, I don't know if there's any questions that you've got.
Hey Bob, yep, we have no questions currently as we're coming right now, so we're all good to go. I did want to let everyone know though, if you have anything to ask about anything that we've said, now is a great time while we've got Bob here online, but you can always reach out to him at info@robert-murray.com. If you do think of something a little bit later, Bob will go through everything, I guess, here on the what's next for you. So that's great. That will help everyone know. But we do have these monthly webinars every Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month. So it's great to sign in and get the next episode.
Great. Thanks, Tiana. And one of the things that I will throw out there for you that I am available to talk to you about is, I showed you earlier the strategic compass, which had customer experience, operational efficiency, operational quality, and innovation on it. When I'm in front of other executives and I am taking them through strategy and we're focusing on that particular compass, that's quite often, sometimes I can have hours and sometimes days of debate. It's a very, very difficult one for organizations to get their head around. However, once they do, they're able to then see where their entire organization needs to be focused, or the direction needs to be changed. Their communication needs to be changed. Their processes also need to be altered in order to get the entire company focused on that. It's a very difficult one to at first visualize, but once you get it, and once you get the organization focused on that, through everything that you do, not changing your mind from one day to the next, but through everything that you do, then the organization will start to move towards that experience offering that customers are so desperately craving today. And that's where the loyalty is really coming from, is that experience offering. So, seems there is no questions. We're always available afterwards. And just want to remind you that becoming a master in leadership is a journey. There is no destination to it. I've been at this for a long time, and every day for me, I wake up and it is a journey. So keep learning, keep attending webinars like this. You can follow tips and tricks and insights on leadership on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, as well as my website. There is this monthly webinar that happens each month, and every Tuesday there's a blog that comes out on my website, and every Friday there's a 1-minute video that comes out on my website. All of it courtesy of questions that I've received from people from all over the world, so I thank you for that. You can reach out to me personally here, and you can check out my company page at incrementa.ca. So I'm going to wrap this up now, and I'm going to stop the recording, and really, really want to thank everybody for attending, and look forward to hearing from you and seeing you on the next webinar, which will be Wednesday, March the 4th. Take care, everybody.